you. And I want to bring in Jeff Lax tonight, attorney and law professor at the City University of New York, to talk about how the judge arrived at this sentence. Jeff, thanks for coming back tonight. So the judge could have gone with, I understand, something like 12 years, that low because this was a first-time offender. He could have gone up to 40 years. Why did he settle? He kind of split the difference there, 22 and a half.
Yeah, it does seem like he split the difference. And, I think a lot of people, the way he introduced the sentencing, thought it was going to actually be the 12 and a half years because he was saying he didn't let public opinion affect his decision, which obviously he really shouldn't. He needs to apply the legal standard. But I think some people, I know that the family, obviously, it's not consolation to them, but I think people were expecting even a lower sentence than the 22 and a half years. And I have to say, I know it's not consolation to George Floyd's family. I totally get that, and it shouldn't be. But to those people in his family and others who take some solace in this, they should take some comfort in the fact that his legacy does have meaning because as Jamal just said, police officers usually, it helps them to be a police officer. They either get off or they get a lower, reduced sentence. In this case, it actually harmed Derek Chauvin because it was used as an aggravating factor that the judge referred to, and he got another 12 and a half years because he abused his position as a police officer. So that is a legacy that will go to George Floyd's memory.
Help us look ahead now. Chauvin has likely two battles that I can see. First, a potential appeal, and I assume that you think he's going to appeal this, and then there are the federal charges on top of that.
Yeah, his battle's not over. And certainly I agree, he's definitely going to appeal. And one of the big issues in the appeal, I think, will be they'll bring in the issue of bias from outside sources. The jury wasn't sequestered, which I always felt they should have been. Thought that was a mistake by Judge Cahill. And also the settlement of the city, paying all that money to George Floyd's family. And the jury knew about that, and that was a big factor too. So they're going to appeal that. I don't think there are good grounds for overturning this case on its merits. You really have to show that the result would have been different. I don't think they'll be able to do that, but that certainly is something that his lawyers will try, I believe.
Sure. And then there was the issue of, I think one of the jurors had said he never went to any of the BLM protests or George Floyd protests, and it turns out he had been there and had lied about it. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, there are these three other officers who were on scene. They have their own cases. Could this prompt them, seeing the outcome, to take a plea deal?
It's interesting. Obviously, you have to compare, the level of egregiousness of the behavior. Certainly, Derek Chauvin was the worst of all of them. So that's a big part of it. The lack of video that Jamal referred to is another part of it, what they were doing. We don't have that kind of graphic video, so they may think that they have a better chance than it. It's very tough. You have to really sit down and think, what are my chances in front of a jury again? But you're right. When you see how harsh they came down, and I do think it was harsh. I know some people are saying it's not, but it is. Over 70% of cases in the past 10 years for second-degree murder in that state have been for less than 12 years. So I hope people realize that. I hope people realize that they were tougher on him for being a police officer. And I do think you're right, Chance. I think there's a chance, sorry about that, I do think there's a chance that the other police officers will consider that they came down harder on the Minnesota cops because of their positions. I do think that.
Jeff Lax, law professor with the City University of New York. You were with us the day this verdict came down, and now punishment, sentencing phase. We appreciate it. Thanks.